Who's your spokesperson? They haven't even allocated. Come on, guys.
We talked about the continuity of care too. If the patient had followed one doctor and then suddenly switched to another in the same house, there might be a problem. But we also, I said as a young doctor, I haven't been involved in EQuiP or any of these questionnaires yet. But what I asked myself when I sent the patient out of the door is, did I learn something new about this patient today? I think that's a very, if I didn't learn anything about this patient, then I haven't asked the right things.
Yes, Peter Tate said that's what you should always be your ambition. To know, when they close the door, you should know something more about them that you didn't know before. I think the longer you've been in practice, the more challenging that is. But it's nonetheless a very important aspiration. Because I think we tend to get don't want to know anything. But we also tend to get a bit complacent and assume we do know everything there is to know, and we're often wrong there. Was that? Well, that's one.
Yeah. We didn't.
What were you talking about?
We talked about things that have probably already been said.
Which other ones did you spend a lot of time talking about?
The last question.
No. Which of these?
Satisfaction scores.
Yeah, we talked about satisfaction scores and how it's made in different countries, and the continuity of care.
Yeah, I put that in there.
Yeah.
So I'm doing kind of portman's not an approved process here.
And you just decided to do that. Okay. Well, I think this is very interesting. That's what I was very interesting.
We thought our task was difficult when we wrote the paper, and I think you're proving it for us.
And just another idea popping up is what is about the doctor. In terms of the Maslach burnout inventory has questions like how many times a day or a month or a week did you have a patient which you wouldn't see again, which you are not interested at all. So that could also be a part of what is my perspective of the relationship I have to my patients.
It's very interesting. It overlaps with something that happened to me when I retired from clinical practice, because in the months going up to it, I would sit in my consulting room and I would see patients and I would be thinking, I'm really going to miss you. And then there were just a few patients where I would sit there thinking, you know, someone else is going to have to listen to this. So that's quite a clear demarcation.
That's a real
So who's the spokesman?
Okay, so we're a slightly different group. We started off, we talked about continuity of care, we talked about EQuiP. We have another one called PACIC, P-A-C-I-C, which I wasn't familiar with, which is used for chronic care management and looking at patient satisfaction in the chronic care model. So that's another one. But then we moved on to, and how would you like to be assessed yourself?
Right.
So then we kind of got slightly different ideas. One of our ideas, probably we spent a good bit of time talking about, is the whole idea of how you manage bereavement in your practice. So one of our colleagues here always makes a point of writing a letter to a bereaved patient's family, and then they get feedback from that. Certainly in the Irish context, it was just coincidence that that came from the group, because we have a quality award, and our quality award for the Irish College GPs is for small things that make a difference. It's not for a big research project. It's not for a huge big audit. And one of our GPs won it 2 years ago for the management of bereavement in her practice and how she deals with that. And that gives you a lot of feedback on how good your therapeutic relationship is in reality, on how your patient speaks to their family about how you interact with them. So that's one that we would consider mightn't be scientifically very useful, but it's a starting point. And another one related to that then is about exploring your mistakes. So it's not all about how good you are, how great you are, it's what mistakes you've made. We'd also see the need to address both sides of the coin. It's not just doctors and it's not just patients, it's both. It's how you feel as a doctor as part of the therapeutic relationship. It's just as important really as measuring patient satisfaction. And we also have a Norwegian publication, but it's only in Norwegian, but our Norwegian colleague has volunteered to translate it for you. And this is on a global rating scale of the consultation. So it's like a pain, a pain rating scale when you ask the patient, how bad is your chronic pain? How bad is it today? Is it 2 or is it 8? What is it today? In this case, at the end of the consultation, the patient and the doctor just draw a simple line on a page, 10 centimetres, is that right, Bianca? So you draw a 10 centimetre line. How did the consultation go for you? And you put at one end very good and at the other end very poor. And without looking at the patient's consultation, you rate yourself at the same time. So you do your scale and then you compare. Now, if both doctor and patient come out at 8, that's very good. But if doctor comes out at 8 and patient comes out at 2, you have an issue here. It's very simple. It's written up in Norwegian, and you can read people. But so they're 3 examples, I think. So.
And you go in your small group and discuss it with your colleagues.
Yeah.
So that overlaps with the sort of volunteer and sort of.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I want to hear more about that one, actually.
Okay.
But I was thinking, what about the patient gave it at 8 and the doctor gave it at 2?
Yes.
Is that when they got the antibiotic out of you?
Oh no. And we have one very simple one. And again, that is about what value added did I give to this patient today? So that's what did I do, not what did the patient think. So.
Yeah, and just to add, when I was talking to Trisha, talking about when the doctor makes a mistake, because I think one of my most powerful measures of a good relationship is the stock of forgiveness you have.
Yes.
That is the buffer when you inevitably make a mistake.
Yeah.
And how you measure that, I have no idea, but it's incredibly real.
Yes. Grey hairs.
I have been forgiven
Yes.
on several occasions
Yes.
just because of something I did years before. And I think, and again, it's how you. Now, thank you.
You had another one.
Oh, because you talked about the flowers you get given and the bottle of whiskey, and then the extraordinary things that go on when you actually retire.
Oh, that's right. What you get when you retire.
And so
I've never been given whiskey, by the way. Lots of men get given whiskey.
Oh, well, I've got a partner who's he describes himself as culturally Muslim but religiously an atheist, and he wants to put up on his surgery door at Christmas time, alcohol would not offend. Because our patients are so culturally sensitive. He gets loads of chocolates and all the other men partners get whiskey, and he gets pretty pissed off. Anyway, I think we're very grateful to this table, actually, for really turning it around and really running with how you yourselves would like to be assessed. So can we sort of, is this all right, Trish? Can we sort of expand...
Is it on the table?
No, they were the same table. They've separated. Yes, no, I separated. Not quite that disunited. I'm not sure whether they've fallen out, but I don't think so. Anything to add from these other tables about how you really, when the chips were down, would like to be assessed? Not necessarily by the powers that be. I mean, I think this is what you've helpfully thought about. You've thought about how you would like to be assessed for your own understanding of how it's going, which is also one of the things that you said about, do you know something now about, it's your own self-assessment of how you're doing. Yes, maybe you can say something.
Well, what we started out with this table about continuity and trust, and we actually spent quite a long discussion on how do you measure trust, and we could not find a way, but it's something that's actually very solid and noticeable when it's there.
There's a questionnaire.
A validated questionnaire for measuring trust in a therapeutic relationship. We found it. It's referenced in our paper.
Which is really rather distressing, because we'd much rather not have that as a validated measure for something as ineffable as trust.
Yes.
But
I might have it on here. Yeah.
Trust in the relationship, not on the system at all.
Yes, that's
In the relationship.
That's wonderful. That's responsiveness, which is Harry Rees. I might have put trust. I think I didn't. That's how the weightings. That's how they produce the questionnaire, and then they chuck out the ones that have, numbers that aren't very high or very low. It's called, what's it called? Principal component analysis. Used to be able to do it, can't anymore. And then we get these questions, and although it's still slightly toe-curling, you can get the idea that they're actually. Sorry? You like that one? I thought it was all right. This one came up actually when Dennis Pereira Gray refereed the paper that we'd written, and he wrote back and said, "You've left my one out," because Dennis was on this. So we immediately had to eat a humble pie, and so we didn't know. You published it in somewhere really obscure that we'd never heard of. And he said, well, we had to, because we sent it to the BMJ and this, and this, and they rejected it because they said it wasn't robust, because it was all a bit too cuddly. But the reason why I put this up was because oh no, that's something different actually. No, I haven't put in trust. I might be able to find it, but maybe now that I've got this here, this was doing this very detailed conversation analysis, which nobody mentioned. And I think it's because it's an academic tool, and I've very rarely seen anyone, outside academia use this. But you type it all out, and the dots mean there's a 1 second pause, and those double brackets mean it's not speech, it's something else. So the kind of notation. But actually, this is examples of not very good consulting these are students, I think. Yes, it's in OSCEs, but they tape record the OSCE, and then they actually look at, in great detail, at the conversation. It's just an academic technique. Actually, Celia Roberts has also used this to look at doctors in England whose first language is something other than English, and why they keep failing their postgraduate exams. And it's not because they can't speak English very well, it's because they don't get all these nuances. And I think, that I'm not going to talk about, because that's Balint. We haven't noticed talked about Balint. I thought we might. Anyway, that'll do. We did have a mention about having small group discussions with other doctors.
And I did immediately think of Balint. I think that it's not nearly as common as it was. We now have quality circles and those kinds of things where we don't have time to debrief about how we're feeling. And I also had a thought about the fact that a lot of this reflection happens at the time of retirement, and I kind of wonder about various stages in our work as GPs, whether there shouldn't be a time that we give ourselves to formally reflect on how we're doing in the areas we'd like to improve on. And a lot of the issues that we have around our relationship is that we don't have enough time with our patients, or the way in which our practices are organized don't allow us to communicate effectively, or we don't see the patient when they come in, they see someone else. There are many systems that we'd like to improve, which having some formal way of having the relationship evaluated and measured in a non-formal way may enable more going back to Balint, or regular reviewing processes with our colleagues, or giving us permission to do this, which we've lost the permission to do this.
I thought that can I just check? You said as much as you wanted to say about trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.